it's Sissel and Verse, and today I'm going to be going over what I read in January. Just a thing to keep in mind, if you like the video, don't forget to hit the like button. If you want to discuss any of the books I mentioned in this video with me, comment below, or if you just want to talk about what you read in January. If you haven't subscribed already, please do. It's a good way to stay up to date with me and my bookish activities. You can also find me on Twitter and Goodreads. So, on to what I read this month. First up is Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi. I have a weird relationship with this series that I don't much feel like getting into, but I will say that I read Children of Blood and Bone. I thought that was fun. I could see why it's getting a Hollywood adaptation. I think that I'm going to enjoy the movie. One of the standout things from the first book was the world. I thought it felt very vibrant. I thought we got to see a bunch of really cool locales. I definitely was not at the same hype level as everyone else for it. Like, I read it. It was like, this was fun, but like, this isn't like blowing me out of the water like it is for other people. But like, let's go on to the next one. Like, let's see what else is going on here. And this one I enjoyed significantly less than the first. So, gosh, all the characters were just tap dancing on my nerves this time around. So I kind of got through the first 2/3 of the book really fast because I just enjoyed seeing bad things happen to the characters because I was just so fed up with all of them. To me, the first 2/3, it wasn't like super duper predictable, but like things would get set up and I'd be like, oh, okay, this is where this is going. Like a conflict would get set up, like there'd be like a missing link, or some people don't get along, or their relationship is tense, and I was like, okay, like what's literally the worst thing that could happen right now given this setup? And like that would happen. And that just kind of rolled along for the first 2/3 of the book. And I was just like here for it. I was just, eating the popcorn, watching the mess unfold. And then around the 2/3 point for me, I didn't even enjoy that anymore. I was just like checked out. Amari let me down this book. Like, she was my favorite character from the first book. And it is so weird. She didn't even backslide this book. So I felt like a lot of characters backslid. Like, Zelly backslid so badly. Like, I felt like so much progress that she made in the first book was just undone this book. I just felt like I spent this whole book watching Zelly act in, like, trauma responses to everything. Like, lizard brain, panic mode, trauma responses. Is someone going to check up on her? Like, does someone want to take Zelly aside and, like, talk to her? Like, things aren't going well. Why are you putting her in authority positions and just taking her word as law when, like, she's obviously not doing well? Someone check up on her, my goodness. But Amari let me down because she didn't even backslide. She just started being, like, crappy out of nowhere. I was like, what is this? She's sacrificing people and being, like, disrespectful left and right. And I'm like, who are you? Like, this isn't the Amari from the first book. Amari's bad impulses in the first book, not her bad impulses in this book. There are some love triangles in this one. I felt about them. Like, Rowan shows up, and I liked it when he was being chaotic, and like we didn't know like if he was an ally or not. And then he just stopped being chaotic, and I was like, no, like, no. I need you to bring the uncertainty. I already know where you stand right now, and I don't like that. You need to keep me guessing. And I wasn't feeling the ending. Without getting into what it is, Adeyemi isn't really an author that like I trust with the story that I think she's going to tell. I think it takes like a lot of finesse to pull off what I think she's trying to pull off, and I don't think she's in the place in her career yet where she can do that. So I feel very ambivalent about ending the series. If I read the last book, it's going to be very contingent on like reviews I hear. Like, I'm going to have to hear like a lot of good reviews to finish it because I feel like I'm in a good stopping place now, I feel like I put in enough time in the series. I feel like I gave it a good chance, and it's not for me. It was okay. Then I read Mother of the Sea by Zetta Elliott, which was about a woman on the West African coast who is captured and sold in the transatlantic slave trade, and basically her supernatural encounters on board the ship and how she gets free. It's a quick read. It's a novella. There are characters in here that kind of made me think of Homegoing, specifically on the, like, African side of things, like the Africans who lived in the slave castles, like with the white European slave traders, that it touches on some of that. There's this small child who helps out the main character. The small child's named Asia Keke, and I think that she was my favorite character. She just had a vibrancy and an indomitable spirit, and she like inspired others around her to act. Writing was good, it flowed, I tore through this book, and the ending is very bittersweet. So it's good, I would recommend it. And next up is Kingdom of Souls by Rena Barron. This is about a young woman in her teens. She lives in this West African inspired fantasy world where pretty much everyone has magic except for her. And these children start going missing and she has to find them. And there are ways to get magic that are unpleasant. And in her quest to find these kids, she starts dabbling in these unpleasant ways of using magic. And yeah, things get real. This was such a weird experience for me to read. I don't know what was going on because things would come up where I'm like, this is so cool. Like, this is really cool. Like, I should be like really into this right now, but I'm not. And I don't know what it is. This was a bit of a slog for me to read. I don't remember if I was going through something when I was reading this, like if work was just bad or something, I don't know, but things just weren't hitting the way they should have been. Like for me, the first maybe half was kind of slow. And then after the first half, there'd be like chunks of the story. I'm like, oh, this is good. Like, this is really good. But like, I don't know what it is. Like, I just felt kind of meh about it. And I realized while I was watching reviews, like there's like so many things I was missing. I was just like, it's just not hitting and I don't know what it is. Like there's this place called Kefu, which is basically like this demonic hellscape on Earth. Like it's this little town where all these demons are and the people don't really see them, but it just messes with space. It messes with time. It's like days aren't always 24 hours. It kind of skips around. And there's a storyline with the main character's mother that talks about like abuse of power and like the sort of rippling consequences that can have. And I was like, this is so intriguing. This is like hard-hitting commentary. This story should tear at my heartstrings, but for whatever reason, I feel like there's something here taking me out of it, and I don't know what it is. So yeah, for me, those were like the two big standouts for me. The thing I liked was that as the main character is like paying this price to use magic, we do see consequences. The body horror and stuff is good. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Kingdom of Souls. Next up is Queen of the Conquered by Kaysen Calendar. This is getting a standalone review. I have a lot of opinions and feelings about this one. I'll just say that I see some people just picking it up based off the dust jacket, and I highly encourage you to read interviews with the author about what they were trying to accomplish with this book before you pick it up. Because, like, I think on the dust jacket, it's just like, there's this girl, and her land's colonized, and she's taken it back from the people who killed her family and are mistreating all the indigenous islanders, and it sounds like real, like, straightforward, like, hero quest story, and it is really not that. But again, standalone review, keep an eye out for that. And then last up is the first volume of Sunspot Jungle, which is edited by Bill Campbell and has like a bajillion authors in it, so I'm not going to list them all. But I'm going to tell you my top stories from the anthology and then kind of give you a list of honorable mentions. So Sunspot Jungle Volume 1 is a speculative fiction anthology with authors from around the world. So there are some stories that were translated into English, and the cover looks really, really nice. It's by John Jennings. John Jennings, I see doing a lot of flyers and stuff, and he does a lot of graphic novel adaptations of Octavia Butler. So I just wanted to point that out because I really do love this cover. I think it is very pretty. I don't know if I already mentioned this or not, but I got through a Kickstarter campaign because I heard it was illustrated, and I really want to see more books for adults that are illustrated because I love illustrations. I know it drives the price up, but it's just a thing that I love. I think it's a thing that makes the reading experience more lush and feel more like immersive. So like I'm mostly a fantasy person. I do get into science fiction, but I was surprised by this anthology because there were so many stories that had more like horror elements to them that I was drawn to. And like for the ones that were like standouts, they were ones I finished them and then I went back and reread them like 2 or 3 times. I think in general, all of these stories that like stood out for me were ones that told a complete story. I think with short stories, sometimes it's kind of the author just playing with the concept and it can feel disorienting and jarring and like unfinished for me. So pretty much all the ones that like I loved were the ones where it was like a whole story, like beginning, middle, and end. So first one is Born of Frost by Melanie Fawzi. And this is a horror short story about basically, you know how when it's cold outside and you breathe on the window and it fogs up? Basically, that freezes and becomes possessed and wreaks havoc on the person who breathed on the window in the first place. And I think what drew me to this short story, because it is like a relatively straightforward, you kind of know where it's going, but how it gets there is something. And I think it was just like the novelty of the terrible things that are happening to the person. And also just like, who would have thought about a possessed birthmark? Like, not a thing I've ever think I've seen as a creature in a horror story before, so that was interesting. Next up is Coffin Maker's Daughter by Angela Slatter. This was like a sapphic horror / gothic about Coffin Maker's daughter and about the business that she's running. And I think for me, the story was a standout just because of how smooth the reveal was, and like how casually the author referenced like diabolical things like the main character was doing. It was like, you know, if someone was making you a pie and they're like, oh, this is how you make the pie, like you get the crust and you get like the fruit filling, and then, you know, you just get a little cyanide, you sprinkle that in the pie, and you're like, wait, what?
Cyanide?
Like, that's kind of how the reveals went, and just kept going and going and going. And it was a very disturbing, diabolical read that I enjoyed. Next up is I Make People Do Bad Things by Cheshire Burke. This is a short story set in 1920s Harlem. Hard to describe. I'd say it's kind of a mobster tragedy. The main character is this woman who has a business running numbers, and it talks about how she has to move people out of her way to get this business up and running. And this precocious child who can make people do bad things, called Shiv, who helps her become like the number runner in Harlem. And I read this and I was like, wow. Okay, Mrs. Burke, what else you got? I wanna read it all. I just really enjoyed like the writing style. The writing style is really like just the way the sentences are structured. It's like simple, and that like undercuts like the really horrifying, complex tragedies and issues that are like spilling out all over the story. And I just felt really bad for Shiv. She's like a precocious child who's old beyond her years, and that's just the thing that kind of twists my heart, you know. Then Girl I Love You by Nadia Bulkin. This might be my favorite short story from this collection. I read it like at least 5 times. After I finished it, this was when I immediately went back to the beginning and went through it a couple times. This is a story about these Japanese schoolgirls, and they live in this world where karma exists and it is a very real thing. People can buy these tokens and these charms to hex people, and as a result, people are generally very careful about how they tread, but some very wealthy people can buy charms that deflect any karmic retribution. And this is about the main character's best friend and how far she will go for retribution. It was twisted, it was gory and nasty. The ending is so bleak. But yeah, I was just sucked into it like from the first page. Like I think I was drawn in by like how far the friend was willing to go for retribution, and how the main character has been pretty mousy for like most of the story, and then how when things go awry with the friend's plan, how she kind of snaps. Next one up is A Model Apartment by Brian Tawara. This was a horror short story about a Hmong painter. Her focus is on Hmong folklore and the monsters specifically in Hmong folklore. And she goes to this town, which is kind of known to be haunted, lives in this apartment, which is kind of known to be haunted. And it's about the monsters and the possessions and the evil, I guess, that unfurls from her moving to this town. This was one that I wasn't really expecting to like as much as I did. I think this is like almost my second favorite one, and I was surprised because this is like a pretty classic horror setup. Like Girl I Love You sort of could be kind of fantasy, like just maybe like a fantasy with more gory, haunting elements, but A Model Apartment is pretty classical horror, and it came with an illustration, which I'll show you. This illustration was done by Vincent Sammy. So this is the painter that the story is focused on. And this is her paintbrush, which you will learn about if you read the story. And there are some rats because of her apartment, and again, the story. Yeah. I don't think I had really seen like horror elements from different cultures like melded together in this way. I think that was part of the appeal. The ending, we don't really know who caused what. It was a painter invoking monsters in this already haunted town in like New England of the United States. We don't know what was what. I just felt like the seething like evil, like waiting to find a hold. And the descriptions were just great. They were gross. They made my skin crawl. It was a very good short story. Next up is How to Piss Off a Failed Super Soldier by John Chu. And How to Piss Off a Failed Super Soldier is an gay romance like action thriller about a failed super soldier and his brother and their troubled relationship with their mother, who tried to make them into super soldiers. The main character is dealing with PTSD and trust issues, and it was a story that was tender. It was a story that was sweet, and like how the brother and the love interest helping the main character to trust, helping the main character to love again, and also was funny. The lengths that the main character will go to and the clashes between him and his brother can be humorous. The last like big highlight for me was Super Duper Fly by Maurice Broaddus. This was a parody of the stereotypes of different like black sidekick characters, like the magical Negro, the mammy, and a few others, and their quest for agency. There were some references in here to The Matrix and The Green Mile where I was actually like laughing out loud and chuckling out loud to myself. This was a wry social commentary, and it was also just like a change of pace. I don't think there are many other stories that were as deliberately and consistently funny as this one in the collection. So now onto the honorable mentions. There was Water by Ramez Nam, which is about a world where marketing is king. The main character is a marketer for a water company, and he's kind of screwed some people over on his way to the top, and it's about their revenge. The next one was Medusa by Christopher Brown. This one was a sci-fi short about these off-planet workers who are issued these slug animal things that are also sex toys and like the unintended consequences of those. This wasn't a super complicated story. There's not a whole lot going on. I just got to the ending. I was like, oh my goodness. This is wild. Also, what the hell? The ending in particular, for me, felt kind of Butler-esque. It kind of gave me like Xenogenesis vibes. And there was Copper Scarab by K. Tempest Bradford. This is a fantasy set in ancient Egypt about a woman whose people have been conquered and her quest to free them using this copper scarab, which is a complicated war machine that has a secret part that she must retrieve at a high cost. And then last is the Arrangement of Their Parts by Shweta Narayan. And this is about these basically sentient mechanical creatures who are being hunted and taken apart and studied. And it is a statement on colonialism and imperialism, and also just has a very satisfying ending. So that's what I read this January. If you like the video, please hit the like button. If you want to discuss anything that I have mentioned in this video, please comment below. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. Thanks for watching. Have a good one. Stay safe. Goodbye.